Karan, thank you so much for speaking with me. And I want to explain this to you while I also explain it to the audience. This is, in my mind, the anti-podcast.
The anti-podcast.
The anti-podcast, okay? Because if you look through the podcast universe right now, and it's all very like how to be successful, and how you wake up and you meditate and you journal and you something and then you become successful, and you make a lot of money and you do a startup that's a unicorn. And I feel that there's not enough we can learn from success. We learn a lot from failure, and everyone's journey has those points where we hit that failure personally, professionally. We learn from it. You have to crawl back up again because it's never the end point. And the idea was to sit down and talk about what we have learned from those life experiences.
Yeah.
So this is not a conversation where we're looking for the next headline for social media. So I'm not...
Oh, you're not how sad. I was ready with 5.
You had 5?
I was ready with 5, but now I'll have to use them elsewhere.
So we're not, I'm not going to be asking you for... I'm assuming that all of the things you've already talked about, people have already heard. I want to know what you've learned and what you believe and how your mind works. And that's the conversation that we're having. So I'm so glad that you made time.
No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I've been dying to meet your face. The first time I'm even meeting you in person.
But I feel like I've been tracking your career for so long. I feel like I know you so well. But that's also because you stay in the news cycle all year round. You're not seasonal. And that's really cool. I do want to ask you, I will start by asking you this though. What, according to you, has been a point of failure? If you look back at 25, 30-year career now?
As a filmmaker, 25 years.
Right.
My film released in 1998. So last year, was 25. So 26 years now. But in the business, when I started as an AD, it's been 30 years. I was an AD, an assistant director on Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, which started filming in 1994. So this year is my 30th year on set in the business, in the movie business. So it's been 30 years. It's been 30 years. Failure. So I've seen a lot of failure as well. Films have failed. That's what in my life is failure. But on an emotional level, the first time I felt like my life was kind of so when I grew up, I felt I failed a lot as a child first, so my films failed later, but I felt I was failing my parents.
How does a child fail?
I was failing because I felt like I wasn't the boy that they should have had. And that's the way I was conditioned to believe because I was effeminate.
Okay.
I was unlike the other boys, in my neighborhood, in school. I didn't want to play sport, and therefore, all I did was bury my head into my books, and then I watched a lot of Hindi cinema. I wasn't sociable. I wasn't an extrovert the way I'm supposedly today. I was very introverted. I was very shy. And I could sense that there was disappointment, particularly in my mother's eyes, because I wasn't coming back with the most glorious report card either. Because I always went to school with a heavy heart. I always felt like I was very overweight. And I think that, I went into kind of like eating out of like some kind of depression perhaps. And I was going through a tough time. But I also felt like more than me, I kept feeling that I'm failing my parents. I'm not doing enough. I'm not being like, the kind
They're
of
having to
idol.
apologize for you in some way.
I felt like my mom would always say, play sport, lose your weight, at times when people I could sense like when I was on stage once, when I was 3 years old, it was a talent competition. It was called the Talent Parade. And everyone was doing something and, I did a dance. And I could tell that there were people sniggering and laughing and my mother was in the audience. And I knew when it finished that she was perhaps not awkward, but also like feeling like something that wasn't natural or normal for her child.
At 3?
I realized then, and I went back home and I remember, closing my door and really crying because I felt like, why can't I be like the other boys? Why can't I go and play cricket? Why can't I play football? Why can't I run without my hands flopping? Why can't I just be like all the other boys? It wasn't a woke world then, Faye. No one told you that you can be yourself. No one gave you that advice. In fact, you were told at every juncture, like, walk like a boy, talk like a boy. So I had a voice that was very squeaky and much like, in fact, when I used to be on the phone, everyone used to ask, you refer to me as she. and so like like, oh,
Some girl called for
Beti,
you.
will you give your phone to the your father?
Yeah.
Like I was like, Arey, I'm beta, but I'm not Beti. But like, I took that all in, and I felt like more than them feeling like that I was lesser, it wasn't them at all. It was just me giving myself that sense of failure. There were a lot of stages in life that actually got me out of that phase. There was one elocution, inter-school elocution that I won, and I was a very shy child, but I was good at certain things. But one juncture in my life, my mom actually sat me down and said, look, I know you have your talents. You may not be good at sport. You may not be good at playing football or cricket, or on sports day you may never win a medal. But I know that you could be great at drama. Why don't you try elocution? Why don't you try like things that you may be good at? And I joined the Interact Club, and I got sent, in 2 months to represent my school, Green Lawns High School, at an school elocution competition. And I actually came back with a cup. I won the first prize. And I had never won anything till that point. But in school, when they announced my name, it kind of became like, I became like Hrithik Roshan when Kaho Na Pyar Hai released. Like there was this stardom. I felt like when they announced my name for the first time in the history of Green Lawns, we won this, inter-school, and it's Karan Johar from 8B. And I was like, I never heard my name in school. I'd never heard my name out loud. I was like that, there was indifference to me. There was like, he's there, not there, doesn't matter. And then after that, your own house starts asking you like, oh, why aren't you doing our English? And suddenly I became like this overnight, and I realized that's the first time I actually saw success. And I realized that the failure, all your self-failings and, your confidence level really come right up when you see some kind of success, some kind of validation. That's all I needed. And then, of course, life kind of became a lot more exciting for me, till I passed out of school, went into college, and then there was the second burst of failure, because now you're in colored clothes. You're not one of many, right? Now you're large, and you're what you call obese, and you're large, you're wearing colored clothes. And now you can be separated from the others. Uniform, everyone kind of blends into each other, so who's tall and short and large and small doesn't really matter, but it does matter. And we have FYJC, first year junior college, and then I was like battling those body issues, and then I joined at that point in time, public speaking class. And there was a gentleman, Mr. Nazareth, who actually told me at the end of the class that, Karan, you have a very effeminate demeanor, and it's not going to be easy for you in life. So why don't you start working on your voice skills? And he actually sent me to a class that would actually bring some kind of baritone into my voice. And all that time, Faye, I would tell my dad, I'm at a computer class, because I didn't want to tell him that this is what I was going to do. I was just trying to become, and Lord, I would never do it to my child today. But I was going to ask you. I would never do it today. I would, if my son had any similar
kind
stuff,
of
I would like, be yourself. But no one was there to say that to you at that time. So I went, tried to bring baritone, and they would put things in your mouth, and just to kind of open your voice up. And then there was somebody who told me, like, live your life in a box, like for my hands, my gestures to be more masculine. And I did that for 3 years till the computer came into our office. And my father said, you've known computers for 3 years. like you know everything. And I looked at that machine and I was like, I know nothing.
It's the first time I'm seeing it.
I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I didn't know what to say to him. And he was like, 3 saal tum computer class kar rahe the, kuch nahi sikha. And I was like, no, I haven't, whatever. And then that phase went into me, finally finding my feet, that I wanted to be like in the movie industry. And I went on a film set, and that's when I realized that this is where I want to be.
So, I mean, I know this from experience, that those of us who struggle, and I did myself, struggle with the way we look through school and college, and, you're awkward, and you have to find something that you're good at. It never really goes away.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It still hasn't.
Like, I mean, for me, how I look when I walk into a room is my Achilles heel. It's the thing that will crack me. Nothing else can crack me. Is that something you still carry with you?
I have body dysmorphia. Like, I'm very awkward, like getting into a pool. Like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know how to do it without feeling like pathetic within. I've tried very hard to overcome it. No matter what the success you achieve, no matter who you think you are in your own head, I'm always in oversized clothes. I'm always, even if I lose the weight and I try very hard, I'm always battling with the bulge. but I'm just always feeling like I'm fat. So I don't want, like, I wear everything oversized because I don't want you to see any part of my body. Similar, so when I'm entering a pool, even when you're with your closest friends, I literally wear my robe till the last minute, till I literally jump right into the pool and take it off, and then the water saves me.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed, Faye. From day one, when I was like this, when I was 8 years old at my club, WI Club right opposite my building, to today, when I go to a club now, and in fact, it's worse now because I feel there are more people staring at me. And I feel terrible everywhere. It's not that when I go out of the country and nobody knows me and I can do it. I'm always feeling like I self-body shame myself all the time, and I go through it all the time. So you're right. The day you feel you're really looking good, and you walk into a room, you feel like you can own that stage. Doesn't matter what your cinematic achievements are, what your life achievements are, what the money you have achieved or name you make, none of that. But your body is, in a sense, like so important. Even in situations of intimacy, I need to put the lights out.
Yeah.
And
it takes so much courage. Yeah.
And it's like, and I've been in therapy for it. I'm right now I'm in, with a psychiatrist because I also the thing is, all these issues all fester and create mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
And so at a time of all the things, I developed social anxiety, or rather square room anxiety, where if I'm in a square room with lots of people who I know and know me, I literally had, like 2 years ago, a panic attack, and I didn't know what I was going through. Till I went to a psychiatrist. She's been wonderful, and I've been on medication for the last 2 years, and I'm weaning it off now. But for 2 years, it was like I couldn't be in a room that didn't have an outlet, where I couldn't see like a window, or I could go out. But if people knew me and I knew them in a square room, I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't breathe. And prior to that, in 2016, I had also combated anxiety of a different kind. That was more emotional anxiety. The result of a broken heart. And I realized that a lot of all these childhood issues, when you don't address them, you're not in counseling, you're not in therapy at the right time, they really come up, and they come and get to you in a way that you cave in. With the older you grow, it doesn't become easier. It becomes slightly tougher. And you're dealing with so much. And then you have a public demeanor where people expect you to be a certain kind of person.
All the time.
Yeah, and the thing is, because you're you host a talk show and you judge a reality show and you're wearing flamboyant clothes, and so you're expected to be on the life of this party, and you're supposed to be witty and funny all the time, or just engaging and entertaining. And you also have that stress that if I'm at a dinner, why am I not making people laugh? Like, I have all these weird insecurities, and nobody actually realizes that this can all be like a huge amount of baggage on your entire DNA, and you're just combating it.
So for me, when I walk into a room and I'm feeling really confident and I'm there for either work or whatever, if someone makes a stray, perhaps unintentional comment about how I look, it will destroy me. Yeah. That person wouldn't even know. And now I'm in this space, and I'm curious if you're there as well, where I'm really scared of passing this on to my child. So I don't want my child to see me being insecure, because I feel that some way...
It has, because I'm so... And I don't want to do it to my child, Faye. It just breaks my heart. But when I see my son consuming sugar, and I see he's put on more weight than what is, and I'm like so paranoid for him.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it to him, because
saying it will make it worse.
This is the age where I want him to live the life. I want him to be happy and joyous, because he is a happy child. And, but I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing the genetic, whatever it is, not a flaw, you can't call it a flaw, but I get it from my mom, and I know he's getting it from me. I can see it. I can see that he's going to walk into that phase, and he's going to combat it. And I'm like, go play sport. Like, go play football, go play cricket, do all the things that I didn't do. And I'm like, I shouldn't be this parent. This is not who I want. I wanted my kid to be an individual of his own choice, my daughter, my son, both. But I'm finding myself really struggling from actually saying insensitive things to my own child. And it came out, and I am deeply, deeply apologetic to my child, that I said, Yash, you'll put on weight. Like, I said it this time. We were on a holiday, and I said it. And then I went to my room and I said, why did you do this? And I went outside and I hugged him and I said, I'm really sorry, you eat what you want. It's a modern family, right? It is an unusual circle. Now I'm also dealing with the questions about whose stomach was I born in? And, but mama is not mama, really. She's my grandmother. And like those questions are also coming up. And, I'm going to the school, to the counselor, just how do we navigate this situation? And it is not easy. Being a parent is never easy. In my case, it's like I'm a single child and a single father. So I feel like I have 3 children at home because my mom's 81. And, at that age, they become like kids themselves. So I'm feeling like between my mom and my 2 kids, and, you run a company, there's a lot.
Yeah, that's a biggie also.
But I'm also, then I look back and I'm big on gratitude because I feel like there's so much to be grateful for. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm whining about 100 issues. I have such a privileged life, But my issues will still be my issues. And I'm still very grateful for my mom, who's still around us, and my kids, who are a blessing. But it's my baggage that I don't want to give them. That's the big fear.
So you did talk about what failure felt like as a child. As a filmmaker, as a storyteller, other than box office, success or failure, what is success or failure to you now?
The box office mattered a hell of a lot. Like, there was an inherent anxiousness and hyperness and just of doing the numbers. Like, and also comparing yourself to other people. I've been through that journey of jealousy, of like competitiveness, of massive ambition, which of course I still am. But that, he made a better film than me. Oh no. Like, why? And those were jealousy. That was a feeling of, envy is a great thing. Jealousy is not. Jealousy is a downer. It just makes you sink.
How do you tell the difference between the two?
You can. Envy is when I really want to emulate something you've achieved. I want to get there because I've acknowledged the brilliance of your achievement and I want to get there. I wish. But jealousy is when I don't want you to have it.
Right.
And I don't want you to get where I think you're getting to. I'm wishing you not very good things. That's jealousy and that's not right. And I felt it. I've been through that phase where I've been jealous of other filmmakers because they did more, their films made more money or their films were more award-winning or whatever it was. Then with life, you realize you kind of reach a point and stage of your life where you've seen it all, done it all. And then you feel like, what really is it about? When I directed a film called My Name is Khan in 2010, by that time I realized, I don't think I care about I care about the economics of it because what we do is a blend of commerce and art.
Yeah.
But I also, doesn't matter if I'm not the biggest hit that year. It doesn't matter if I don't win the Best Director award. I just want to do something that I really enjoy myself doing. And when you realize that, am I really having fun? Because up to that point, I was just not having fun. I was just playing the game. I was playing the ambition game, the competitive game. I wanted the gold. I wasn't willing to settle for the bronze. And I realized that sometimes the bronze can give you joy. The bronze can give you joy. Why do you look at it like that? In the world stage, you're third. But to me, maybe that third made me feel happy and that makes me a first. And I realized that it was when My Name is Khan was out. And then subsequently, I made a film called Student of the Year, which was the opposite of what I intended to do with My Name is Khan. And there were many filmmakers who very politely, or rather not so politely, said, why did you direct this movie? It was not a film about anything, really. It was just high school musical. It was gave me so much joy. I was so happy. I was working with newcomers. They were always on time. There were 3 new faces. And they were listening to me like I was like Mr. Know-It-All. And I love that feeling of walking where you feel like you're the most accomplished on that set. And prior to that, I was working with Shah Rukh Khan, who's the legend of Indian cinema. You're always in awe. Here, suddenly, I was not used to people being in awe of me. And I have to say, I loved every bit of it. I relished it. That whole experience of being everyone looking at you, you have to act it out, do everything, and everyone looking at you. And I was like, it's not some great cinematic achievement, but I had so much fun. It did well. It created 3 movie stars. I'm really excited, but I didn't win 1 award. I didn't even get nominated. I did well, and that was it. And I was happy. And Faye, it was the first time I felt like a pressure was lifted off me. I feel like now I can fly. I can do everything I want to because now I'm no longer running for gold. Now I'm running for joy. And when that happened, you don't know what it can do for you. I think you can actually, and I think my company grew even larger after that and became even bigger and stronger because I wasn't chasing anything. I was chasing joy. And when you really chase, and when you achieve enough, you can afford to chase joy. I feel like...
So you've actually done, through your company, you've tackled different formats. You've been on television. You have a very successful chat show. Is that now the mind space that I'm just going to do anything that sounds interesting to me? I'm no longer trying to be the critic's baby?
No, I don't. I mean, Rocky-Rani released last year, July 28th. And the night before, I was really stressed about that film. I'll tell you why. I wasn't stressed because I wanted to be like the biggest blockbuster. I just felt I was coming after 7 years. And I'd seen a lot of nonsense that had happened during the COVID time and a lot of the trolling. And you second guess whether... I feel like people had an impression of me through those 7 years about things that were coming out and the trolls that were like, there was a tough time, during the COVID time when things were happening, Bollywood was being bashed, and somehow I had become some kind of a poster boy of that bashing, and there was a lot of nonsense. Then you were also beginning to believe that, are people really disliking you?
Yeah.
Do they not know the person you really are? And are they really, and if they dislike you, will they not show up to watch your movie? And after 7 years, if I see a failure, what will that do for me? So I was very stressed about just like seeking that validation, like wanting it back again, because the 7 years and specifically the COVID time was not, I don't think it was fair on our industry. It wasn't fair on me. And I was reading the kind of nonsense and I never let trolls get to me. But this time it was like it had gone too far.
You were very stoic though. You didn't respond to any of it.
No, I didn't. But you walk in and you have a news anchor screaming about you and your mother watching it. And your mother breaking down every second day, hearing not just a man, even a woman and other people, like, you expect like people to show empathy and compassion and understand the circumstance we're in, but they're just screaming, shouting about you. And like there was this one news anchor who was like literally saying like, something is wrong. What are you doing, Karan Johar? I'm like, but what has it got to do with me? This has gone wrong. That has gone wrong. What do you have to say, Karan Johar? And I'm like, excuse me? There are 18,000 other people in the industry. Can you ask them? Yeah. Why is it me that has to do something? And I was like, and my mother at one point came and said, do a havan. And like, there's a lot of negative aura and energy around you. And why? And once she just broke down and she said, they don't know who my son really is. Like, why don't they know that you're this, of course, my mother will say it about me, but that you're this loving and full of love and giving people. And why don't they see who you really are? And I'm just like, I don't know, Mom. I really don't know why. Maybe it's the talk show that makes them believe I'm a certain kind of person, that you're bitchy and catty and, you're sitting on some high throne of entitlement and you're like saying, make your career, break your career. We do none of that. We are still begging for actors' dates. We are still like groveling to make our movies, trying to combat tough times in the industry. But there is an impression out there. So when Rocky-Rani was releasing, I was like, oh my Lord, please succeed. Like just whatever it is, become a success, because I need to be told that I'm not like my company should not feel like I'm going hindrance in their path. That because I'm the face of my company, that if something is really wrong with me, people will not show up to see a film that I believe is joyous and happy and entertaining. That means it's all going to come down to me being the wrong one. That night, Thursday night, the media was watching it at 9 p.m., at 7 p.m. or 9 p.m., I don't know. But I know at midnight, my phone started buzzing. And members of the media who I've known really well through the years, whether they've liked my film, disliked my movie, they've been in touch, because I believe I'm all for the critics. I believe none of them have an agenda. Why should they write poorly about you if you made a good film? If they haven't liked it, they'll say it. It's their opinion, and you have to respect it. It's their job. And Faye, there were about 7, 8 of them who were hard-nailed critics, sending me wonderful messages. And I was like, I literally had tears in my eyes. And I was like, is this a special film? Have I achieved what I really felt I never had? Yeah. And the next day, the reviews were out and there was a lot of love pouring in. And on Tuesday, I remember just sitting alone and saying, okay, I can breathe. I'm still relevant. I'm not hated. And it hasn't penetrated to the real audience space. This is all superficial. It's all a mirage. It doesn't really, this negativity doesn't really exist. It's all virtual. And none of it really is coming in my way. But that film and that success and that validation at that point of time really mattered.
Do you feel that when the media says things that are untrue, that there should be more accountability? Because it's also said for one night's, sort of TRPs, and then it's gone.
Also, like, I have a problem with clickbait also. Like, I'm like, you give a headline you choose things out of context. You don't know how much harm you're doing because people just see that headline. They sometimes don't read what's written below it. They don't even fact check. There are many people who don't check any facts, and sometimes I've seen myself being quoted which I haven't said those things. I haven't been at those places. And there's just a whole lot of and then there are these YouTubers who are now coming in giving you, and they're pulling out stuff from interviews from the past and saying,
a story
this
together.
is what Karan said then, this is what, and he's this. And I was and really nasty, and this whole nepotism debate. And, after a point, I stopped answering and justifying it because I'm you believe I am this flag bearer of nepotism, then believe it, I can't change your opinion.
In fact, it's gone one step further now, where there is this idea that you are like this dawn of the industry and you make or break careers and everybody's afraid of you. And no one can speak up against Karan Johar because you'll destroy their career the next day.
I feel like...
Really? Have you designed this? Do you prefer it? Are you ruling by fear?
I don't want to rule. I want to do nothing. I want to just be left alone. I don't mind if you never write about me. It doesn't matter to me. Because I believe that my work will speak for itself. I've reached a point where I'm I used to fear indifference. I'm now please be indifferent to me. I don't care. Just don't write about me if you don't have anything nice to say. I'm no Don. I'm trying to put films together. It's not that I'm not seen failure at the cinema halls. If I was really that, every film would be doing what I had to. I would be casting. There are films that I have tried to cast that have not happened. There are actors who said no, like they should if they don't like a film. We are going through the same struggles, trials and tribulations. Right now, the industry is in a creative crisis. We are going through a situation where we have to we're managing footfalls versus reality versus star remunerations versus the studios collapsing at our end. And there's a lot of drama happening in our business, which I think that we have to take stock of. There's no Don that I am. I'm nothing but a person trying to really make my company stay afloat. That's who I am right now. And I'm very proud of our achievements and we've done very well and all is good, but it needs to keep sustaining. We run large operations. We have huge overheads. My stress, and Apurva, who's my brother, my sibling, and runs the company with me, both of us are trying every day to maneuver our way through these times. And there is this dawn and that make or break. I'm trying to salvage my own half the time, my own career. And I'm I don't know where all this has come from, Faye. I really don't know the origin of why people think like this or a certain section of the media writes like this. I don't know it. Is it because of the talk show? I sometimes ask myself, is it because of Coffee with Karan that I'm sitting and asking these questions where they're making it believe that, I get these movie stars and ask them what I want to, but I'm getting no juice out of these movie stars in the last 2 seasons. No one's saying anything. So can't you see it? The proof lies in the pudding. See it for yourself. And I really don't know what to do about it. So all I can do is just say that, look, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
So you did say, of course, that the industry is going through a crisis. Is that now because it's so expensive to make the films and you're talking about 3 days, 4 days in the movie theaters? What's actually happening behind the storytelling?
There's a lot. I think the audience's tastes have become very definitive. They want a certain kind of cinema. And if you want to do a certain number, then your film has to and I'll say this technically, your film has to perform at A centers, B centers and C centers. Just multiplexes alone will not suffice. Then simultaneously, the cost of filmmaking has increased. There has been inflation there. Then the star remunerations, and there are about 10 viable actors in Hindi cinema. And then they're all asking for the sun, moon and earth. Then you're paying them. Then you're paying the film. Then you're marketing it. You're putting that expenditure. Then your film doesn't do the number. Those movie stars that are asking for 35 crores are opening to 3.5 crores. How is that math working? And then how do you kind of manage all this? And yet you have to keep making movies and creating content because you also have to feed, your organization. So there's a lot of drama and the syntax of our cinema has not found its feet. Hindi cinema, each decade has had a certain kind of syntax. And right now we're if Jawan and Pathan worked, should we only do action? And then everybody's running that. Then suddenly a love story works and love story's made a comeback. I feel like we're running around like headless chickens. And conviction has taken a complete beating and it's all about herd mentality. And we haven't realized that there is a certain audience now that wants rooted Indian cinema and without the pressure of what the critics have to say. They just want pure joy. But they also don't want alienating cinema, where you talk about just the urban syntax and you alienate the tier 2 cities and the plexes in smaller towns, and then you don't do that massive business. You can make that urban cinema, but then it has to be made at a certain price. Then I find all the Hindi film directors of our times have grown up on the fodder of a certain kind of cinema. They don't understand the need of heartland India. They don't know it.
Yeah.
They don't, because they never watched those movies in the cinema halls. They've grown up on internet content, and everything is aspirational Hollywood or world cinema. But some of those movies just don't work in India. You have to know that you can make what film you want, because films don't fail, budgets do. And that's integral. That there's so much that we have to teach. And the other day in my organization, I actually called 150 members of the office and assistant directors, writers, just to give them the academics of our movies. Just the breakdown about what a budget is, what the cost of capital is, what the cost of marketing a film is, and what your recoveries are. Yeah. Average theatrical is this, overseas is this, international, music, digital, satellite, all the breakdowns. I feel people don't know the basic, like the rule book of like what movie. Everyone has visions. Yeah. Every director comes with like a certain belief, like I want to change the world with my film, but make it at a cost. You can't be deluded. So I feel like we're trying those times. So in all this, I really don't want to be told about like my flag bearership of nepotism. I don't want to hear any of that bullshit. I'm like, look, I'll take who I want to if it suffices my need.
So here's the question. Do you also believe that that Indian cinema, or specifically Hindi, has enough elbow room to tell the stories you want to tell, or is there a lot of self-censorship happening where you're like, okay, we can't really do that story, we can't do this story, let's stay in the safe zone?
I mean, there is a fear of like getting into any kind of legalities. So we have legal departments now in every organization.
They're pre-vetting everything.
So everything is like, we don't want court cases. We don't want, any FIR.
Some random FIR filed in some random police station.
And I'm like, so you're protected. You can't say this because this will... So everyone is like, already we go through a process. Every script that is made at Dharma Productions or Dharmatic Entertainment, our digital arm, goes through a legal censorship internally. Then we go ahead and make that film. So it's not just we're afraid. You just don't want the stress and pressure of fighting cases in courts. You're not putting all your time and energy in something that you can very well do without, And are we telling? Yes, we're still telling brave stories. Are we still doing what we want to? Yes. But there are some things that you have to be wary about. Because all countries are sensitive. Lots of communities are sensitive. And lots of stories need to be not censored, but you have to, because people are always, and it's never, I really believe that the people who object sometimes are not really the ones who should be objecting. They're people who just want to make noise for all the wrong reasons. For either media coverage or, whatever it is. I believe a lot of it is just sometimes it's just to make a hue and cry, because Bollywood or Indian cinema is a soft target. It's very easy to jump on. Like there are so many people saying and doing different things, but we say anything and like you're assaulted and you're all over the place. Yeah. You will be a trend. You will be, you'll be literally attacked online. Yeah. Because I think we are soft targets, and that is the truth. We're a soft power who's a soft target. So it is the irony of life.
You did say earlier that when you were younger, you were shy, you were not as social. You're now viewed as a extremely flamboyant person who dresses flamboyantly, to take photographs of you outside of the airport. Are these two separate Karans? Is the shy Karan still in there somewhere?
Yes. Absolutely. They're awkward and shy and pretends to be extroverted and out there. Flamboyance is just a cover. It's just, it's a shield sometimes. It's like, from like, just... Also, it was a phase I went through, like, I'm in a monochromatic phase right now, but I went through like a blingy phase and shiny phase. I don't know, it was defiance. It was like just doing what the hell I wanted to do. There is, that awkward shy kid never left me. It's still there. When I walked into any room, and whether it was today when I met you for the first time, I'm always playing to some gallery. You never just find me. Actually, sometimes I just want to be silent and quiet, but I feel then what will they think of me? She'll think I'm boring. Yeah. I play a part all the time. So when I'm walking out of an airport, I want to be photographed. I love those clothes and I want to be photographed. And many times I've said like, if I worn these clothes, then somebody should take a photograph. And I'm not going to lie to you. And I sometimes take my own photos. I do photo shoots, and I feel very empowered that at 50 or 52, I was on the cover of a fashion magazine, and I'm like, that's great. I was a plus-size kid who was called all kinds of things, and now I'm on the cover of fashion magazines. I'm like, this is my real victory. I'm like showing them the middle finger. Whoever may have said things about me, in my head, I'm like, when I go to a school reunion, I feel so great because I feel I've aged better than most. And I'm like, wow, I love going to school reunions. They're all looking terrible.
They've all lost hair.
And I'm looking great. I have hair on me, and I'm probably in more shape than many. And maybe I'm not married. Maybe that's why I don't know what it is. But I'm feeling great. So there is that part of me, that flamboyant part of me, that is sometimes rebellion. Sometimes it's a shield. It's many things. Yeah. You must understand I'm Gemini. So, you do get 2 or 22 for the price of 1. Yeah. At every given point of time, we can as Geminis be all kinds of people. You really don't know. It's only in the confines of your inner sanctum, your home, where you find your true self. But once I step out, make no mistake, I'm playing a part all the time.
I do want to understand, speaking of the airport photographs, professional hazard, I spent a lot of time on Instagram, and there was a visual of you holding an oversized Hermes bag that was valued on the internet at 35 lakh rupees.
My God.
Okay.
My mother's watching this too.
What part of that was untrue? You were holding the handbag. But the question that I have is...
I never thought there was a day that Faye D'Souza would ask me about an Hermes bag. Now I think I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Faye, now I've seen it all. I'm actually, this is more the moment I will not forget. It was black and orange.
It was black and orange. Yeah, I've never seen one of that color. No, so here's my question, right? I want to understand what wealth means to you as a form of success. Because, let me give you the larger context of why I'm asking this, right? So when we grow up in India, we're told that, you have to study hard so you can get a good job, or you can earn well, buy a house. There are certain markers of adulthood. You've got a house, you've got a car, you've got a job, or something. Your parents then tell their extended family that, my daughter's doing this, or my son is doing that. Wealth is a marker of success in our country. But we're now in an India that is wearing its wealth very differently.
Yeah.
Like the Ambani wedding, for example. We've never seen anything like this before. Social media is telling us the price of every outfit, the shoes, the bags, the diamonds. This is a different world that we're living in. So also, as parents, we're raising our children in this world.
Yeah.
And it stresses me out also that, are we giving too much access? Is it too much comfort? What sort of, humans are going to result from this exposure? But I want to understand, in your journey since you started to now, what is your relationship with wealth and success? And has that changed? What does it mean to you?
So, when I started, the truth of the matter is that I have always, as a child, because of my father, so we lived, we grew up, I was the only child, mom and dad. And Papa, after his first film released in 1980, which was called Dostana, he saw a series of about 5 failures right after that. And he also had a small export division that was called Yashwan Exports, where we were middle agents supplying wrought iron to a French company called Pier 1, which is what he wanted me to do eventually in life. So all the movies, those days we used to get films financed from financiers, used to kind of give us money, and on interest we used to pay back. And when the film failed, then there were twice or thrice in our life. I remember my mom sold my nanny's flat once when a film failed. One point she sold some of her jewelry. My father had to sell a little property he had in Delhi to make do. These are the stories I have heard. Somehow, Faye, though, because I was the apple of my father's eye, if the regular kid who was way wealthier than us, and we were not wealthy, we were what you call a middle class to upper middle class family, because we had food on the table always. I went to a really good school. My father drove a reasonably goodish car. It wasn't, but we didn't have any. I never went or traveled. We never traveled out of the country because we couldn't afford to. I couldn't study because I knew we couldn't afford to. There were kids I grew up in a very wealthy neighborhood. It was Malabahel. And we were not wealthy. but like the neighborhood was wealthy. But my father always made me feel like I was a prince. Because if pocket money was 25 rupees, he gave me 50, you know, because he wanted me to kind of always be, he always said like, you know, if you go out for a meal, sometimes pay for your friends because, you know, we are Punjabi, that's how we work, you know, and that's just in our demeanor. I always punched above my weight and lived beyond my means because of my father. Fortunately for me, this is just a coincidence that my first film did really well, and then my second film did really well, and my third film did really well, and then my father passed away. Then I started Dharma, and we started doing, so I started making a lot of the money that we have made at Dharma right now has been made by the time that I started directing. So I feel very proud that I could live my father's dream of taking Dharma production, but also make my own money. I worked very hard. There are times that I worked 18-hour days. Let me tell you, I work through every weekend. I'm here to you on a Sunday. I work on national holidays. I work every day. I work anything between 16 to 20-hour days on a daily basis. I sleep only 5 hours. I work very hard for the money I've made. I'm never going to apologize for that. Absolutely. And I believe joy is very critical. I don't want to sit and apologize for the money I spend on things that give me joy. You know, I'm a bit of a crazy retail mad person. I love shopping. It's therapeutic for me. I don't want to admit otherwise. I want to tell you the truth. I do like that Birkin bag I bought. I love it. And it's going to be my daughter's. It's an heirloom piece. And I looked at it as an investment. But if you ask me, I want a blingy watch? No, I don't work. I don't like watches. I don't like cars. I like clothes. I'm stupid perhaps. I'm silly. And I should be perhaps saving that money for my children. But I know they will achieve their own dreams. Like I achieved my own dreams. And I'm going to do what makes me happy today. I'm going to make sure my children are educated. I'm going to sure my mother is always protected and well taken care of. But this gives me happiness. Why should I deny it? I don't want to deny it to myself. Because I'm going to live once. One day, who knows, I'll just pop dead one day. And I was like, all my life I was doing things, protecting. I don't like the sensibility of like hoarding. Put your money, save. Yes, I'm doing all that. There are savings. There is property investment. There are fixed deposits. There is all that to protect the interests of my children in their future. They'll have enough. But why am I sitting and apologizing for the wealth that I earned because of my own hard work? I worked very hard to achieve that wealth. And yes, we are in an Instagram generation and people are going to watch. So what do? Now I can't help it. There's also fame attached to you. So I'm like, I do enjoy being photographed. And if they saw my bag and put the price out, I'm not happy about that. And it's mildly inflated, but like it's an expensive bag. I'm like, there's nothing you can do. I was very happy carrying that bag. What I did not realize that they would be circling the price and then it would reach my CEO who would message me and say, did you buy this bag for this much? And I was like, so sometimes that policing of Instagram is like, but the larger question that you asked me was like, would I have a big party for my 50th? I did. Would I have a big wedding for my children? I would. Because I love it. I love decor and I love khatirdari and hospitality. I always like to have people over and I love to kind of be the best host. I love it all and I'm not going to change that for any kind of judgment from anyone else who doesn't know my journey.
You know, from a pop culture point of view, and you did, you talked about this a little bit in the past. There is this idea between being single and being married. I grew up on Friends and Sex and the City. These were the shows that were really big when I was in college and just started working. And now in my 40s, when I watch them again, because now you have OTT, it's available all the time, I've realized that it's constantly telling you, you have to find someone and get married. And if you don't find someone and get married, then you'll be alone for the rest of your life and you'll have cats and you'll be this crazy cat person. And these were not Indian shows. But it was constantly telling us that you had to get into a relationship and you get someone to commit to you. Is there a power now? And I feel that when I talk to younger people, there's a difference. They don't feel that pressure. They don't feel the pressure that I felt at that age, at 25. That, oh my God, I'm getting old, I'm getting old, I'm getting older. Is there a power now in being single and being in control of your life and not sort of having to build those pressures around you or fall for those pressures around you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm single and I haven't been in a relationship in a really long time. In fact, I've been in very few, like I would say 1.5 relationships in my entire life. But I can't tell you how much I enjoy my single status. I don't, to the extent that I don't think I can change it now.
Yeah.
It's because, forget sharing your bathroom or bedroom or your space or your schedule. It's just like the power of your day is with you.
Yes.
You know, your responsibilities are to your children and to your mom, which is mine. But that's about it. You know, otherwise, you know, I can do what I want to. I can sometimes, even because I know things are sorted at home, I can pack my bags and leave and go for 3 days if I have to come back before and do what I want to. And now emotionally, I did feel the vacuum when I turned 40. You know, I felt it the most when I turned 40. But when I turned 50, and I'm 52 today, I was like, yeah, Abhi, I don't want it. If it does happen, I'm not stopping it or blocking that energy. Now I don't see it happening
But
at
now
all.
you're not actively like...
No, I've done it. I've been through it, gone through agencies, gone through blind date situations, met people out of the country, in the country, tried, and then I'm not interested. Now I'm like, if it finds me, then well and good. And if I'm interested and excited, of course I'll give it my all, because I believe a compassionate, emotional person, and I have enough love to give. But I don't feel the need for it anymore at all.
No, but you know, the beauty of this is, and this is the big message really, the modern family that you've created, where you have your children, you have your mother to co-parent and to make sure they do their homework, and you're able to create the life that suits you without the institution of marriage. And that's a really powerful thing that I think more young people should be aware of, that it's not the only route to happiness.
I don't think, I've reached a point where I cannot depend on anyone else for my own joy and happiness and sense of self and satisfaction. I really believe that I complete myself. And you know, the love that I receive from my mom and my 2 children actually fills that well of love that may have been lying empty, if at all that's a thing. You know, it all sounds a bit hallmarky, but like, you know, that's what I mean. I really don't miss the relationship or even the companionship I get from my friends. You know, and I have really close friendships. The hugs I get from my kids. The love, unconditional, from my mom. Right now, it's a purple patch of love. You know, there's just love all around. So I don't feel it, I don't miss it, I'm not seeking it. And yes, I would like to tell people that, you know, please, don't get married for any other reason but for love. And if you really feel like this person completes you and you both are filling in each other's voids and like kind of completing each other in the most beautiful, majestic, magnificent manner, please go ahead and pursue that relationship, and hopefully it culminates into stronger, like an institution like marriage. And I have seen enough marriages succeed and enough marriages fail. So I'm not cynical about marriage, but I missed the bus, and then I realized I didn't need to get onto that bus at all. I'm just so happy, you know, driving the freeway, you know, without like any responsibilities of emotional attachments.
You know, and I was talking to someone before we started this conversation, before you walked in, about how you made a film normalizing divorce and infidelity at a time when it was so far ahead of its time. But today, we are living in a world where a lot of people realize that if 2 people are not compatible, then it's perfectly okay to go separate ways and find happiness elsewhere. And that whole idea that divorce is in some way a personal failure, that, you know, that you would be viewed forever as not having been able to make a marriage work, has fallen aside, I think. I don't think that
I firmly believe that, you know, every couple will go through ups and downs. Sometimes, you know, you overreact to a down and, you know, possibly do make a decision that is drastic without kind of going through the beats of actually understanding what is wrong. And that means that going through counseling, you know, self-awareness, talking to people, because sometimes a marriage can be salvaged because you're taking you're making a hasty decision, saying, okay, I want to, everything that you start beautifully doesn't have to end suddenly dramatically. There has to be a rational reason, enough time. But once you go through all that and you've been through and you feel that this is not working, please end it. Who are you doing it? Who are you keeping it for? What is log kya kahenge? Who cares what log are saying?
Kahenge is a really big thing.
What the hell do you care what people say? They have nothing else to do, so they will say. You also have saying. So I'm like, we are all saying things about other people, but how is it changing anyone's life really? I've never lived my life with the gaze of what, would I have had kids without the institution of marriage? You know, I've never lied about who I am. Everybody knows my truth, and I will never lie. And I don't care what people have to say, because they are not responsible for my joy. And they never will be. So I always tell people, please don't worry about Samaj and log kya kahenge, because none of them really matter. Your life matters to you. You come here, you live your life, and you will die at the end of that journey. And it's important that you will lead a life that you feel 80% of it, you've lived on your own terms. There will be 20% that you will have to, succumb to external pressures, and those you can't do without, and everyone's life has their own circumstance. But I'm like 80% if you can take in life under your own wing and in your own control, then you've lived a good life.
I'm finding, there's a similar strand through this whole conversation where you're saying, whether it's professionally or personally, what you buy, what you wear, who you love, just chase your own joy. Nothing else matters.
Nothing else does. What else could matter?
Yeah. And it's very simple.
I wish someone would tell my 20-year-old self that.
I wish someone had told my 10-year-old self that. Because by the time I was 20, too much damage was done.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, you have to go through but Faye, if you look at your own life, maybe you had to go through that to emerge as the human being you are today. And, I look at it that way, that maybe I had to go through that dark tunnel to see the light. And when I did see the light, it was shining so bright that I had so much clarity. Like, that's the one thing that I don't have in my life is confusion. I just know what I don't want. What I want could be an endless list. But what I don't want, I'm quite aware of. And the other thing is, I never wanted to live a lie. I never wanted to pretend to be someone I wasn't. I never wanted to take my decisions because of what people thought. If honestly, my mom's okay, I'm okay. Like, her opinion really matters to me. And she gave me the wings to fly, and I really don't care about anyone else there.
That's really powerful. The other aspect of success is legacy. Obviously, you have the work that you do. Films are forever. God willing, 100 years from now, someone will still, be watching these films. But the legacy of having taught as a teacher, and you've done this, I know, within your organization, you've brought in writers, you've brought in directors, you've brought in creative talent and given them space. How important is that in terms of building legacy? I know for me personally, there are a lot of people I have worked with, I have sort of trained on the job, who I have very good relationships with, many, many years, even after they've moved on and they work somewhere else. For me, that's super important. Where does this sort of fall in your list of things?
It's very important to me, paying it forward. I've always believed in kind of like creating that legacy that you leave behind, which doesn't necessarily have to be for yourself. It has to be for the work that you've done. From a very young age, I've nurtured young directors, young writers, young designers, production designers, cinematographers. Everyone within the organization has actually, many of them have done their first film. So many, I can count at least 80 journeys that began with me. And literally. And I love that. I love it. I never feel like, I feel you haven't achieved anything if you haven't nurtured other people's lives and journeys. What is it? It cannot be all about you. If you haven't created, and there's nothing, Faye, that gives me more joy when a filmmaker or any technician from Dharma has kind of earned like the glory, and you feel like you've been part of his or her journey. It's an amazing feeling. When I see my own directors succeed, when I see their names, being, called out in film festivals or, summits or like anywhere, when they find their place in this industry, it just gives me so much joy. So it's very critical that I nurture younger talent, newer talent, always, and make sure that, and Dharma's ethos is that. The DNA of Dharma is new journeys. So many of their journeys have to begin. Give them the opportunities. If they haven't done something, give them that opportunity. And 95% of those people are not from the movies. Yeah. But we are still called flag bearers of nepotism. But it doesn't matter, because really it's what you do. And now I want to reach the next stage of my life that I really want to start a film school. And I'd love to teach myself. Because I think I'd be a really good teacher. Because I really believe that a teacher has to be a selfless person. And I believe I am that person. I can very selflessly impart knowledge and talk about things so that it can help and nurture somebody else's journey. And I'd love for that to be an important next step in my life.
I have someone who's worked with me now 5 years ago who sent me a text message saying, I just got promoted and it's because of what you taught me. And for me, that is more, 5 years
That's a big achievement for you.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And it really made my day.
No, it always does. I know the feeling.
This is a slightly cliched question, but of the knocks that life has given you, what have you learned that's been the sharpest thing?
That sometimes nothing feels like success. That sometimes in life, success is a huge burden to carry because living up to it is so much tougher than combating failure. And that's a big learning I've had. Failure is a very inspiring feeling. It rejuvenates you. When you fail at something, you kind of analyze it and you feel like, I'm going to get it right next time.
No, it feels like crap when you fail at something.
Of course, but I never feel like that. When I fail, it really energizes me. When a film of mine fails, I understand what went wrong, and then I will try with the same filmmaker to get it right again. At least endeavor to. I haven't, as a director, seen a failure, so I don't know what that feels like. And I'm touching every kind of wood when I say this. It will happen. How could it not? So I don't know about me failing as a filmmaker myself, because none of them have failed. There have been disappointments. They've not achieved their limits, maybe in my head, what I said, but none of them are called cinematic failures. They've all worked commercially. But when I see others fail, I always feel like, please take this as that, again, it's a cliche, but it is a stepping stone. You have to kind of understand it, acknowledge your failure. Because many times you feel like I've heard people say that, the audience has failed this film, like this film was so, no. If your film hasn't worked, understand that you failed. We all collectively failed, who made it. Audience is always that you will get 95% of the time the audience cannot be wrong. They are the final word. They will tell you what is right or wrong. If your film is beautiful, it will find an audience. If your film is genuinely lovely, it will make the money. If it's not, understand and move on. But success sometimes is such an over-pressurizing burden. That's why I say nothing feels like success sometimes, because it's like constantly keeping yourself relevant, constantly achieving success, keeping up to the place and position you achieve for yourself is much more pressurizing than combating failure. That's a big life lesson I've had. Another, I think, that I have grown to realize is that please learn to monitor your expectations. I've seen a lot of love. I'm very fortunate, but I've also seen unfelt hurt and disappointment, and that's mainly been because of my expectation. And like, people should not be burdened with your expectation, because they will always land up hurting you. When you create something for someone, you have to let them go. At one point, they will go. They will go on. They will achieve on their own. You may be there, but you cannot expect that they will still always be around you. They will always be there for you, because they have their own life to look at and their own vision and their own ambition. And I feel like I've very strategically in the last 10, 15 years, and where I've reached today is almost like a place of what I call my version of Zen, where I have monitored my level of expectation to a very minimal percentage. And therefore, I don't feel that hurt anymore, because I realize, it's so simple actually. Why am I expecting, okay, I launched you as a filmmaker. You did very well. Then you got so much more money from someone else. And you decided to take that part. Why am I blaming you? It is good for you. You got so much more wealth coming in because somebody else is offering that to you. I am not in a capacity to offer it to you for whatever reason. You must go. Should I resent you? No. I must be proud of you. I must not expect that you're going to be around me. So if I don't expect it...
Or even grateful.
Fine. If you're not grateful also, it's fine. I've done what I've had to do. I have to do it selflessly. Don't expect. You have to be a parent in every circumstance.
Someone told me this once, that when you do something for another person, you're doing it because it's making you feel good. And that's it. You should not expect that person to pay it back or even be grateful. And if that person is grateful, then great, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
And I always look for those surprises.
It's gone,
And don't worry about the shocks.
Yeah.
Because, then all you'll do is every day, you will sit and feel let down, hurt, disappointed, always and that builds a certain cloud of energy around you, which is never good for you. Because you're walking around shielding yourself, and I'm like...
It will prevent you from giving in the future.
I love to give. And it's not what give and get don't have to kind of coexist,
You did talk about this, I think with Anupama Chopra, you said, even after 25 years, I feel like I'm not taken seriously.
Yeah.
Does that still bug you? The jokes, there was a post recently where you said, it was a joke.
No, there was somebody...
And
look, I just feel like you come on a comedy show and you mimic me. And you're not mimicking me about when you mimic a legend about their stance, or when you mimic Shah Rukh Khan and the way he's doing that's all, you're somewhere actually really, because they deserve that.
Yeah.
Imitation is the best form of flattery, but not in the way it was done, recently. It was not an imitation, you were mocking somebody. Somebody who's been in the business, contributed to the industry for nearly 30 years, worked, on his own accord, and then you have people sitting and laughing. I don't think that's cool. And I was like, there are two reasons why I feel like because of my flamboyance, because I am on television a lot, I'm judging reality shows, hosting a talk show, there is this level of seriousness that is not attached to you as a filmmaker. I'm not walking around in a gropey expression and giving intense looks on a set, and I'm giving a selfie on my own set as a director, and I'm okay. I like that. I'm pouting into my own Instagram feed. And does that make me less hardworking or less serious as a filmmaker? No, but that's the perception. I can't do anything about it. And now I've created this monster for my own, of a reputation of my own, and I have to live with it. Sometimes you'll get angry. Sometimes you get upset. That day, I had a vulnerable moment, I wrote it.
Yeah.
1 week later, I was like, I don't know why I gave that so much importance, because that show got talked about. Nobody was even looking at that show. Nobody was watching that show.
So people went looking for it.
They were looking at that. It got written about, at least for that week, because nothing lasted. It's not good.
Yeah.
But I was like, I shouldn't have. When I look back, I was like, why did I have to empower, someone else? When actually all I've done is give them that moment of the spotlight, whereas I could have just very well avoided it. But I felt vulnerable at that moment. And I did, and that happens sporadically to me. Suddenly I'll have a great sense of humor about things. Suddenly that one day something will bother me.
Yeah.
And but that happens lesser and lesser now. But yes, to answer your question, I do not get taken seriously, and I understand why. And that bothers me periodically, not all the time.
But also, I said in the beginning that you're not seasonal because you stay in the news wheel. And as a journalist, I'm consuming the news all the time. You stay in the news wheel all year round. You've had various projects on television, including your own chat show that's extremely popular. You've been on film. You're very popular on Instagram as well. Is it deliberate to stay relevant?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Because I feel like I said, what I want, the indifference is from the criticism. I'm like, don't write about it. But I don't want to not be a part of pop culture at every given point of time.
Because a lot of the other directors who are taken seriously, like you said, are only written about or talked to when their films are coming out.
Yeah.
Or they're working on a project. But the rest of the time...
But also I'm doing multiple things. My company has 4 verticals.
Yeah.
So we have Dharma Productions, our mothership company. We have our digital content, Dharmatic Entertainment, which, we produce digital content for streaming services, etc. And we've done non-fiction, fiction, both. We have an ad division called Dharma 2.0, and we have a talent management agency called DCA. And I have a jewelry brand, which is Tiani, and it says Karan Johar, which I give a lot of time and energy to as well. And there are multiple other endorsements I do, and I do a lot. And because of that, you keep seeing me all the time.
Yeah.
Am I happy about that? Yes. Am I doing that strategically to be relevant? Yes. Ori has a relevance room. I have my own. And relevance is important. Indifference is not a good thing. And I like that. I like to be in the news if and when, but mostly for the right reasons, hopefully, But am I creating news that is not an achievement of myself or my company? No. Am I buying media to talk about me, about things that are not true? No. We're not doing any of that. I'm hoping that what I do is fodder enough for the media to write about. And if they're not writing about it, that means it hasn't struck a chord or hasn't connected, and then I have to work harder and do something else. But I'm always in the news for things that I love to do, and I'm happy to be in the news. I have no problem.
I mean, the work that you've done with Dharma Productions, and we talked about how you said, when your father was making films, they had to raise the money differently. Yes. Financing was completely different to what it is today. It's been institutionalized. It's corporate, almost. Very similar to the Hollywood model. There are about 3 people in the industry who can take credit. You are one of them. I know your dad was already very proud, but if he were to walk through the halls of Dharma today, what would that conversation be like?
Oh my God. I think he'd be in shock. Because he was, he never really saw the success he deserved with the work that he put in. But he was a producer, and a producer at that time was a low-hanging fruit. They were not, nothing was, like today I'm a creative producer. There was no such thing at that time. No. Producer was bringing in the money, putting the project together, and then you were dependent on movie stars
asking
and directors.
Everybody to start on time.
I had to come on set sometimes. Yes. Sometimes actors didn't show up. They were doing 3 and 4 shifts a day, and it was crazy. I think he would have been very proud. And that gives me a lot of joy. It was just last week, it was 20 years since he passed. And my mother was very emotional that day, and I was traveling back to make it in time. And she was like, I'm actually not feeling sad today. I'm actually happy because I think Yash, which is my father's name, he would have been very proud with everything you've done. And I was like, you know what? I don't like to normally say it because I feel like we have to keep working. But I was like, I think I should acknowledge that, yes, he would have been happy. And we had like a happy conversation about him. And normally she's still very, very emotional about him. And she still tears up every time we talk about him. But this time we had a very like we patted each other's like backs. Like I said, you raised me well, you're raising the kids well. And she's like, you've done so well. And we just praised each other, which we never do. I never praise my mom, she never praises me. We kind of don't do that a lot. We just take each other for granted, and as we should. Sure. But that day we had a moment of self-praise, and it felt good.
Is that success?
Yes. Yes. Living your parents' dream and seeing it realized, big success. I think what can be bigger than that?
Karan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Faye.
For your time.
Thank you for your energy. I mean, I felt I was in therapy. I have been in therapy, so I know what it feels like. And I feel like just saying things and articulating your emotions sometimes is therapeutic. Yeah. And this interview felt like therapy.
I'm glad. But it's been amazing. I'm so glad we had this time to chat.
Thank you.
It almost felt like,
Thank you.
That we were catching up.
And you're really in your Team India blazer today. I love it.
I am.
Well, I don't know when this will be out, but it is the day after we won the World Cup.
It is the day after we won the World Cup. So
love it.
Amazing.
Love
feeling. Good feeling.
And you're gorgeous. Just always know it.
Oh,
you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.